welcome to Put It All on Red. I'm Roberta the Tool Lady, and I really appreciate you all spending your time with us tonight. I have two wonderful women, and they both have so much to offer to go along with our topic tonight. Of course, it's the holidays. We talked about holiday blues just a little bit yesterday, just a little bit. But I got these ladies with me, and when I asked them like every bit of yesterday, they were like, "Sure." So I'm so happy to have them. And now I'm going to go ahead and let them go ahead and introduce themselves. Which one want to start? Brendan, you want to start first? And then
Yeah, let's do it. I'm Brandon Lynette. I am a speaker, an author, mindset coach. I am a mom of 6 and just out here helping people step into their full potential. I'm super excited to be here. Thank you for asking me, by the way.
Thank you. All right. Now, Nicole, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Nicole Haugen, and been married for 15 years. I'm a nurse, mostly worked in hospice, and I also have 6 children, 6 girls. So, yeah.
Wow.
And I'm a grief coach.
All right. Right. All right. Well, ladies, before we get started, let's do a check-in. Like Brendan said, that we have been just running. That's, I think, all of us. It's Tuesday, but it's a holiday Tuesday. I hear children, I hear husbands, I hear the whole gamut of responsibilities. And I got their main players on this podcast tonight. So let's just take time to do a mental health check-in. If you could just tell me how you're feeling tonight. And we'll go ahead and start with you, Nicole, first.
I'm feeling great. Which I'm surprised because Thanksgiving the last 5 years has been pretty rough for me. So this has actually been a really good week.
Oh, wonderful. Wonderful. That's awesome. How about you, Brandon?
Girl, we're telling the truth, right? Authenticity. I feel amazing. I slayed the day, but I put it out there today. One of my kids stepped in dog poop and tracked it through the whole house. So I woke up this morning with intentions of burning my house down. I'm like, sweet, we're going to blow this up today. Happy Thanksgiving. We'll eat, whatever restaurant's open, who knows. But no, I busted out my day, handled some Zooms, went and rented a shampooer, and I literally just walked in the door from returning that thing. I took care of the whole house, shampoo. I freaking killed it today. So right now I'm just feeling very boss mode. Like, girl, I played the day.
So you did it all. That's awesome.
I did it all and then some. I'm like, man, how did I do that? How did that
happen? Hey, that's the power of a mother and a woman. I'll tell you that. We do all kind of things, right? And then we even get on here to try to help some other people.
Right.
That's a whole lot. That's a whole thing, a whole lot. For me, I'm optimistic because I really want to hear what you guys have said. You had sent me a little snippet and about your experience. And then I had spoke with Nicole, and like I said, I even watched some of your podcasts. So I was like, oh yeah, I like her. She's like badass. I'm just gonna say it. So I was like, yeah, I like her. I like her vibe. So let's see what Brandon got to talk about, because I really did watch a couple of them the other day. So I really like
I appreciate you tuning in. That means a lot. And I think your topic is amazing. There's just something that has happened in the past few months within people that are kind of in my circle with grief, and people have been coming to me with the woodwork, and there was some heavy energy for a little bit. I'm like, what is going on with the world? Because a lot of these were people are grieving someone that took their own life very close to them. I've got a mom with an 18-year-old son. I have 2 men with their, one's a wife that he lost, one's an ex-wife. Like, it was like in my wheelhouse for a little while. And I felt very compelled to help them work through this. And I mean, grief is there's so many ways to grieve. Like I grieve a lot of things in my life, right? Like I grieve a mother that isn't the mom that I thought I wanted. I grieve a part of her because, she'll never be the idea of what I wanted, that expectation. We have anybody could check out my Once Upon a Time Bitches book. It's my origin story. She signed her rights off on me when I was 12. And so I've grieved her my entire life, and even talking to her now, she's back in my life. I love what she's done. I love the choices she made for me. It all worked out in my favor. God has me. That's fine. It worked out, right? But even talking to her, like, I feel that grief. Like I'm always going to mourn what I wish I had, right?
Yeah.
And then you've got people who do experience that, tremendous loss. I think because of my hurt, I have a wall up. So it's really, I remember getting a call that my uncle died, and I was like, oh, oof, my walls were thick. So I didn't feel any of that, but I've lost fur babies, and it gutted me. That it guts me. So it's grief is wild. It is wild, but I think everybody's entitled to how they're feeling. I even grieved. I'm talking a lot, ladies. You could shush me.
Oh no, that's okay, because we have a grief expert here with us. So that's why we're opening up like this, is because so many people need to hear, and what I know of, like at the church that I belong to, that there's grief, like you said, in different ways.
Yeah.
And people don't realize it. So when you say grief, they're thinking, okay, Roberta, somebody died.
You lost
someone. We're gonna stop talking about this, right? Thank you.
Thanks,
but the other thing is that there's grief all kind of ways. Like you said, not having the parent, or maybe not having the family, or maybe going to another job.
Roberta, the hardest thing that has, like, this has been the most challenging thing for me too, when my oldest went to college.
Yeah.
Because she's been with me every day for her whole life. I homeschooled the majority of that. Like, we were there. So her leaving, I was down for 3 months. Like, I didn't want to eat. I couldn't sleep. I was crying. And every time she'd have to go back to school, I would start a fight with her, because that's my wall, right? Like, wow, because it doesn't hurt. I'm like, if we're pissed off at each other, I'm not going to be crying about it. But it took me a lot of time, and it took her calling me out. She's like, you don't have to fight with me, Mom. I know I'm leaving. I know you're going to miss me. And so my next kid, like, followed her shortly. And there's a grieving process through even all of that, just their first time in college. And now, she's at home, and the next time she moves out, she's moving out, like, to be on her own. And I think there's grief there. And I think what we're all looking for is, honestly, we want that support. We want that validation. We want to be acknowledged. We want our feelings to be heard. We want, no matter how far off the rails we go, like, we just want people to hold space for that, and how you feel is okay.
Right.
The mom of my friend, I love her so much. I've gotten closer to her. She's, like, in my top prayer list, but she's angry, and she's like, Brandon, it's so hard to stay here. I want to leave. And I'm like, absolutely. Your kid, takes his life. Who would want to stay here? It's absolutely, I validate that you don't want to be here. It's hard to be here. So she has to, like, grieve herself too. She's not the same person anymore. So I'm like, a part of you really does have to die, and I just feel like when we become new, and throughout all of these things, through change, like, we have to allow ourselves that space we're in a cocoon, right? We have to allow ourselves a space to kind of process through that. But it's really challenging, because I think people don't know how to deal with people that are struggling with this stuff. And it really is just that acknowledgement. We can't imagine what anybody is feeling through any moment. We can't imagine it. Me losing a kid could be very different than what her experience was with losing a kid. You just can't call it. And there, things that people would say to her, like, you're not the only person that's lost a child, and I'm just like, putting a timeline on these things. And, like, I feel like, everybody is uncomfortable around us, so they want to try to rush us through the process. Like, our pain makes people uncomfortable, right? So they're, like, rushing us through the process. But the cliches, you know, like it's let's get past all of that. Let's give people
Right.
feel their pain, whatever it is. And we're not going to minimize it. We're not going to minimize that Brandon Lynette, you know, when she lost her fur baby, you know, was on the couch for 6 weeks. Like, I'm not going to minimize that. That was a big deal to me. Well, he wasn't your real kid. No, he was my kid.
Yeah.
That's real to me,
Yeah.
you know, or whatever it is for people. Grieving people that you don't have, grieving, you know, the idea of what you wanted. Dreams didn't work out, your life plans didn't work out. There's a grieving process through everything. I'm going to give you guys a chance to talk. It's so
Well, that's okay. I was agreeing with you because you know what? I am an empty nester too. And so I even can remember a couple of years ago, to be honest, I had some friends over. It was during COVID, right? And so they came over and we just had a small group of us. And I remember looking at one of them and saying, what do I do?
What do you do?
I don't know what to do. And it was because I really didn't. I didn't know what to do. And because it was grieving that relationship of being responsible for those children and them in my home and just having that and not having it anymore. I was actually, like I said, I was like, what would I do? I don't know what to do. And I remember her looking at me like, I don't know either. So so I really get it. I really do. It is a hard.
Did you process that transformation? Like, you had to become a new person. Like, you're not, you know, my youngest is 6, so I have a ways to go before I'm like off the hook with parenting. But I always think like, I have a podcast, I have books, I have cool things that I do on the side, right? But like at the core of who I am, I'm a mama. And so how did you reinvent yourself? What was the process you took through that?
Yeah, I tell you what, ironically enough, my oldest son, he said, Mom, if you start talking, people are going to want to hear what you got to say.
Yeah.
And so I kept on saying, well, what do? I don't know what I, because I said, know, it's not the same thing. And I tell you what, the motivation is different. You know, I don't know if I'm the only, because I was grieving. So the motivation was different. I didn't feel like doing anything. I didn't feel like really, you know, I always like had a job, had a company, or then went to school. So I was always doing all these different things because it was for them. And so I just didn't even have the motivation. But once he said, he was like, Mom, you know what? If you start talking, people are going to want to listen. That right there is what they want to hear. And he said, all you got to do is go out there and be Roberta. So for people who say, well, why would you name yourself Roberta? And I'm like, because, you know, that's the best I could be is Roberta. I can't be anybody else.
Right.
And that's the other part of it. So now we're gonna turn it over to Nicole. I can't wait to she's gonna give us some advice. She's gonna tell us how to handle it.
Yeah, so I think it's just what you guys are saying. Like, grief can be anything and everything. And so I think, just like Brandon was saying, where it's like people don't know how to respond to that, and people are uncomfortable when you're uncomfortable and you're in pain. And so they say these things that are annoying and just sometimes rude. And yeah, how do you handle that? And so that's what I talk with people a lot about, is coming up with go-to phrases that you can say to people. Like, because a lot of what I coach on is when somebody has died, like a loved one has died. But grief can also be a divorce or loss of a job or changing jobs, or like when your child leaves the house, or, I mean, basically anything that was a major loss. And so, like, a big thing too is we have the natural inclination to just push that away and like not want to feel those emotions. And then when most of society and most of the world doesn't know how to react to what we're going through, we think that something's wrong with us. And so then we try to push it away even more. And so again, like, I just tell people, like, to allow that feeling, like you said, sitting in that feeling, and then once it passes, to figure out kind of like the new Roberta, right? Like, what does life look like now? like, what do I want to do? What are some goals that I have? And sometimes that's down the road, right? Like if somebody has died, it might be years down the road before you're ready to think about that. And I also think a big thing is grief fog is real. Grief brain is real. Like it's hard. I don't think people understand that unless they've gone through that. And I also think a lot of people think like, oh yeah, like the time is up, right? Like it's been a year. Like you're still struggling with this, or even
But they're hard on themselves, right?
yeah,
Like
right.
you think like, okay, I should be at this point, and then you beat yourself up and you start this cycle of self-destruction.
Yep. Yeah, like, I should be over this. Like, what's wrong with me? Like everybody else, like we compare ourselves so much to everybody else. And so it's like, well, what's wrong with me? Like, I'm the only one who's struggling with this. And I was just talking with somebody earlier today, and I'm like, my parents both died within 4 months in 2019. And so my dad's was expected because he had cancer. My mom's was very unexpected. It was in a winter storm. Couldn't find the car for a day or so. Couldn't find her body for a few days after that. And so I have an older sister and a younger brother. And even with the three of us went through the same experience, we went through grief differently. Yeah. And so I think people like it was easy to look at each other and compare where the other ones were at. Or if, if I went to go talk to my brother and he was having a good day, he would kind of even say those cliche things to try to make me feel better. And it's like, no, like I just want to be heard though. I just want to not feel so alone in this.
And that grief, I'm sure, was different, right? Because you had a chance to say goodbye to your dad. And I think this is what makes it changes death, the grieving of death, how someone goes. Like if it's a tragic, unexpected thing, like you have so many unanswered questions. And I'm sure, I've never lost anyone to cancer. And I'm sure that's just like a different angry feeling altogether, right? Like it's different, but you have the goodbye. You have a chance to prepare. Not that you're really prepared for that ultimate moment, but like mentally you're not going to go through the shock.
Yeah, exactly. And I was recording my podcast earlier today, and I was talking about like with Alzheimer's disease though, like that in itself is a completely different beast because yes, it is expected, but you're losing that person just
one day at a time
over like a decade sometimes, or if not more. And so all that stuff is so different. And so it's easy to shame ourselves and be like, well, I should be at this point or I should be farther along. But grief is so different for everybody. It's the same, but it's so different.
Right.
Yeah. Yes, I agree. And you know what? I'm trying to look it up before I say it, but the 7 stages of grief, people always seem like they want to put it to us, the living, but actually it was done in a hospice by a lady that was caring for people who were dying. So people are not aware. This is actually the individual who knows that they're dying, going through these 7 stages. And, the denial, the acceptance, the grief, and I can't think of the other 4. But anyway, this is the lady who she was studying the individuals who were dying. And so, because I've heard people say that, well, I'm on this stage of grieving. And I'm like, well, it may be a little different for us because we're not faced with a terminal illness. And we're not faced with being in hospice, or respite, and we are actually still the ones surviving. So it may take on a different animal, and I don't think we can gauge it off that easy. I know I certainly can't, and I think it's too much for us to do, or even to say we can do it. I think kind of like Brendan was saying, being patient and being kind to yourself. That's where that comes in, and is to try to be kind to yourself, because it's very hurtful, and sometimes you just really you teeter-totter, like you said. Your friend was saying, well, I don't want to be here, so you kind of teeter-totter mentally with that, like and even I tell you what, even if it gets a long time, that's why this was really important. I have 2 I have a family member that crossed over not too long, like a year ago exactly. And then I have a friend who just crossed over, a godmother. And so I'm saying that to say, even with that, when I was thinking about this holiday, and I was thinking about, people who have, it didn't stop with them. That's what I'm trying to get with too.
Right.
It went a whole list of individuals, and I just said and cried, and I had to be very patient with myself, and that's just a couple of weeks ago, and some of them have been, they've been unlived for probably 20 years, but they were just so significant, as when we come into and you say, well, what do I do now without them? It says, how do you explain grief to children? I'll let you ladies talk about that one.
I think first and foremost, it's knowing what age level they're at, meeting them where they're at. And I think what I've always found is to just be honest with them, but honest in the scope of their age range and what's appropriate for that. And so with my children, so my oldest is 14 and my youngest is 6. And so 5, she's 5. Sorry, I lied. I'm just copying off Brendan. So actually last night, my 11-year-old was crying because she missed grandma and she's sad because Thanksgiving is the last holiday she saw grandma. And I was like, I know. And so we just talk a lot about, allowing the feelings, and it's okay to cry. It's okay to feel angry. It's not okay to treat others in anger and yell at them or hit them, but it is okay to allow that feeling. And so we just hugged for a while, and she just cried it out, and it was bedtime. And I know a lot of times things come up when we're tired. And so it's like, okay, like, it's okay, but we're going to go to bed. We'll reset tomorrow. So I think just kind of meeting them where they're at.
And I mean, basically talking to an adult that's grieving is kind of similar to what you're saying to a kid in the same space. I don't think it's different between an adult or a child. It's just give them that validation, give them that space. And I think if you're someone who is experiencing grief, you have to be mindful of your expectations too, because you can't expect people to know what you need, or to know. You have to communicate. Like, listen, if you need space, you need space. If you need help, you need help. You have to be able to fight for yourself, because nobody's a mind reader. No one's a mind reader. And if you have expectations, if you're having these expectations of other people, you can get caught in that trap of being a victim as well. So not only are you going to be a victim of, these expectations, people aren't living on, you're handling grief, you're going to take the victim mentality and you're going in a downward spiral. People are going to disappoint you every single time. So I think, having those expectations, you just have to communicate. And this is really going to be a journey just for you. Just for you. It's not something that anyone has ever, no matter how much you tell me how much you're hurting, I'm not going to feel that same pain, right? Like I tell my friend, my heart's broken. I cry for her still. Like it is just it's terrible, but I know I have no idea what she feels. But I tell her everything is okay. It's okay, and she's gotten help because she has, come to the, not just not wanting to be here, but wanting to take action, and talking to her about, she has kids that are still here, and it's that how much you're hurting now, she's having to acknowledge not just her pain, but like to help acknowledge theirs as well. And there's expectations there. And I see her frustration. I see the frustration of, how she expects her husband to show up. Yeah. We can't expect anything out of anybody. We've got to communicate and understand that everyone in our circle is going to go at it their own way. Like we had a close family friend die a couple of years ago, and I was gutted. And my teenage boys were just like, oh, and they were definitely closer to him than me. And they were just kind of like, I let him have that space. If, death isn't a secret here. We have a lot of pets. We've gone through we've gone through stuff, right? We've had loss. We talk about it with them. So I had no expectation for them to want to, mourn or to go cry at the graveside. There was just like, what do you want to do? Do you want to go say goodbye? Do you want to, whatever you want to do, I'm here for it. Do we want to go, have a hot dog and honor his name? He sold hot dogs. Okay. However you guys want to deal with it. And everybody handled it very differently, and we all got through it. And it was a thing. So I'm on a rant again, girls.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. That's good.
Right. So just telling my own today. Just
yeah. No, we want to hear that, because Brenda, the thing is, like I said, a couple of weeks ago, I woke up and just was in tears as I thought about everybody. Just in tears. No conversation, nothing could lead up to it that I knew of. Just waking up really feeling like, wow, another year. And, some survivor's remorse, I can say. And so I just think people need to talk about it more, because a lot of times we just don't talk about the elephant in the room, because like you said, it's uncomfortable. So it's easier to say, I'm really attractive, and I'm just going to be attractive, and this is fun. But the thing is, with living carries some unlived, right? Some death. Yeah. So we have to learn how to work with that, and with ourselves and with our loved ones. And I love that you both said everybody experiences it different.
Yeah.
Because that's the truth. Nobody, because you have families who say, she never did cry, or he never did even do this. But
and they're so bothered by that.
Right. But that's how he processed. Mm-hmm. That's how she processed it. So we do all process differently. Mm-hmm. So I like that, you guys threw it out. And like you said, I think living through COVID, because I just really think that was like our last nerve. And so, So now as we continue on, this lack of words, now as we continue on, that's really what we have. We have more people, who are passing, more people who are dying. We just have so many, and we're more aware of it, because during that time we experienced such a surplus of people. Yeah. Like, oh my God, that person died too from COVID. Oh my God, we just had so many people. It just kind of like blew our minds. And now we're just trying to survive coming out of that. And it's
right there. The trying to survive, Roberta. This is the thing. This is the thing, okay? Because there is a point where you take your grief and you're going to make it your superpower. Either it's going to catapult you into the greatest growth pattern you've ever seen, or you're not going to make any moves. Everybody's afraid of dying, but are people really living?
Right.
Like, are we living? Are we living like we can die? Are you loving your family and your friends like it could be the last time you see them, because unexpected shit happens? Right? We're searching for mom in a snowstorm all of a sudden. Did we love her the best we could the last time we talked?
Right.
My husband and I are drowning in kids, right? We don't have the village or whatever it takes. And there are times that it's so consuming that I have to sit back with him, and I'm like, imagine, like, we wake up, the kids are dead. Like, literally, take yourself there. The kids are dead. Were we at our potential as parents today?
Yeah.
And you wake up the next day and you step into your potential. I had the conversation with my oldest, because we're kind of struggling. And I'm like, you feel how you want to feel, but I just want you to understand, like, if I died tomorrow, are you okay with how things are between us? She's like, oh my God, do you have cancer? Is there something I don't know about? I'm like, no, this is real life. Like, I don't live in the how's the weather land. Okay. The superficial small talk is not my thing. So I'm like, are we good? Even my husband's kind of estranged from his family as well. And some things came up the other day, and I'm like, if they died tomorrow, would you have any regrets right now? Because we have to move with people now while they're here. We don't get to we don't have a time clock. Not like Roberta, you have, 27 more years. What are you gonna do? Nobody wants the time clock. That's
Right.
it. What is going to happen? But are you taking your grief and turning that into your superpower? Are you stepping to the potential of who you could be? Because I promise you, a lot of people that have died with so many regrets. You don't get a do-over. We're all going to die. Are we really living? Take that grief and make something of it. Honor these people by living in your best potential. I promise you that I'm sure if they had a chance, they would want another cheeseburger. They'd want to go hang out at family Thanksgiving. Right? If they had that chance. So we're dreading it. Either you're not hanging out with the right people, your family's toxic, but it shouldn't be something that we aren't going to make the best of in honor of the people that aren't here.
I agree. All right. Nicole, you want to chime in?
Sure. I was kind of I'm just like listening and thinking and reflecting. One thing, like, I kind of want to circle back on just the way that we expect other people to know what we need when we're grieving, because this was something that like kind of surprised me, and it took me years to figure out that's what I was doing, because my husband has never lost anybody close to him. I mean, he's lost a few grandparents, but it was like, expected, they were really old, that kind of thing. But I'm like, well, we've been together since we've been in high school. Like, you should know what I need. Like, but the reality was, like, I didn't even know what I needed. And until I got really honest with myself and like made lists for myself of things that because I was having baby after baby after baby. Like, I didn't even remember what I liked anymore, let alone like what I needed in the moment. And especially working in healthcare, like I would just give of myself all day long. And it really took my parents dying for me to pause and kind of like what Brenda was just saying about like, what kind of life am I living? Like, I don't even, and I think too, like when you're in the baby stage, again, that's a whole pregnancy brain fog thing too.
We're just going to be happy we kept everybody alive.
Yes, survival.
Right.
Yeah, but like, I think too, like you just kind of lose yourself. And so I do think for me, grief was an opportunity for me to find myself again and to realize like what things I love, what little things I enjoy, what do I need in the moment? Like maybe I just need water today. Maybe I'm just going to like sit down and put my feet up. Maybe I need to go to the bathroom because it's been hours and I've been holding it because I'm a mom.
Yeah.
Right.
Just little things. I think sometimes we think it has to be big, grand things. And really what I've found is like the more I slow it down, the more simple I keep things. And the more I communicate my needs, the more that life flows a little easier.
Yeah, I like that. I do. I think that's true. Now, what I started doing, which was prior to COVID, because I had again a death, pretty close one, close family member, and I started practicing mindfulness, so I don't ever get ahead of myself. That's really my superpower. I try to, just like I'm talking to you ladies, I try to listen to everything. I kind of try to savor every part of the conversation because I don't want to miss anything. So I really try to absorb everything that I get a chance to, and that helps me stay, I say, out of the negative, because if you're in the now, you can't really be in the past, right? So I do practice that a whole lot. I had someone ask me, so you do it all day? Yes, if it's needed. I do it all day long. I remind myself, what I have going on and what I want myself to, have going on. I even sometimes say, like, Roberta, you're amazing. You're just great. You are wonderful. And I'm talking to myself. So, but it keeps me in today. And so it really has been a lifesaver for me. At first, I didn't think so. I didn't think it was for me, to be honest, because I was pretty much in pain when I did seek some type of help for grief. And she was like, well, the psychiatrist, she said, well, I just want you to meditate. And I was like, really? And I wanted medicine. And she said, well, I just don't want to do that. I don't want to give you medicine. I just want you to do a couple of things at night. And I asked her, I said, so what is that? She said, I want you to, if you got a certain scent, a certain candle, a certain bath oil, whatever you enjoy, I want you to take at least 15 minutes of your time with you. And I was like, huh. And then she said, then I want you to sit on the side of the bed and breathe. Set your timer. Try 2 minutes at first. Remind your brain only to breathe. So the first time, of course, I failed because I thought this lady needed to give me about $250 back because I wanted some medicine. So when I went back, she said, have you done it? And like you said, the brain fog, even the seeing, I was even as far as seeing things that were not real. Like, it was just unbelievable how much grief I was going through at the time. And so she said, are you trying? Are you, how often are you having these different thoughts or these things going on? And I said, oh, she said, well, no, you hadn't tried the breathing, have you? I said, no. So I started it. And now, that is part of my, my bread and butter. Yeah, actually, it really has really helped me a whole lot. So it is helpful. And then going back to what Brenda was saying, I was looking at something that said two of the biggest things that people have with grief is regret and anger.
Mm-hmm.
So they regret maybe some of the things that they didn't get to do or they did get to do,
Mm-hmm.
and then the anger of that. And actually that can cause you to become ill. Because
Yes,
when you're harboring all of those negative emotions, it can cause some issues with you. So you're right. If we don't learn how to appreciate each other, and that's what really mindful does. It just helps you appreciate people a whole lot more because you're paying more attention to.
Right.
So yeah, that is sort of what I have incorporated. Now, what would you say are some tools that you would like to leave our audience?
Go ahead, Nicole.
All right. I think the biggest tool that I like to leave people is that no is a complete sentence. And that, especially around the holidays, no is a perfectly legitimate answer to things. You don't have to give a reason. You don't have to show up. You can just say no. So that's like one of my biggest things that I like to tell people.
I love that.
And I agree with her, except my no is fuck off. Kindly. Kindly fuck off. That ends it all.
I can appreciate that too. I can appreciate that too. So, well, I like that. I like that you brought no in here because no is something that people really have a problem with.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people don't like to say no. It's uncomfortable for them. So what they'll say is yes, 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 and it adds on to some of these things that are going on. Like you said, it's a season. It's a lot going on, and with the yes, 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 you're adding on to more of your.
Yeah, and you're adding a bunch of resentment.
That's right.
Like you're just swallowing resentment, and that turns into poison, and you literally do make yourself sick. You become someone who is just angry, and you're going to be reactive, and you're going to be just pissed off because you're mad at yourself because you set no boundaries. You're mad at other people because they're going to keep using you because you set no boundaries, and then you're going to beat yourself up because you're like, why didn't I set any boundaries? And again, people, we set ourselves in this spiral in our default mode network. We are constantly training our brain to just keep us in a spiral. Like, that's what we know, that we're just in a cycle of, you know, helping other people. We don't have to face our own shit. You could live your life being afraid to hurt people's feelings, or you can live your life protecting your own and knowing that the more you protect your boundaries, you protect your space, the more loving you really are, the more magnetic, the more, you know, and the more time you do have to help when it matters the most, right? People are always going to take what you have to give. They will always take. There is no limit. They will take.
Yeah.
Protect your boundaries, you know?
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, it's true. It's true. And it's very helpful for, like you said, even right now, because everybody's so busy. You know, hey, can you watch my 2 kids? Sure. Can you grab this on your way here? Sure. And before long, you're talking to yourself, why the hell did I not say something? Right? I got my own household to run. I just got off work. Why would I not say anything? But people really, they don't feel like they have, they're worthy even to say no or to have boundaries. So yeah, it's a lot of people that operate like that, and you're like, well, you could say no. So I like that you said it's not even a sentence. So don't even go back and sort of saying, well, the reason why I said no was because on my way home I was gonna, you know, because some people do it because they're so uncomfortable, but you don't even have to back it up. No, without nothing else. That's it.
And that's it. You don't have to explain yourself ever. I love that. And to tie that into grief, like, if you are the person that doesn't start using no as a 1-word sentence, like, you're going to grieve the person that you could have been, because as long as you're weighing yourself down, you can never step into your potential. And then I think, what was the point? What was the point of your human experience if you're not going to make the most of it and step into your own potential, not run errands for everybody around you, but like really step into your power?
That's right. That's right. I like that. I like that. So I agree with that. That's really profound. Just no. by itself is easy. Just no. I've heard a lot of ladies, or even some men, just can't say it. I can't do it. So I think that's awesome. What is another tip you would leave for our audience?
Brandon, do you want to go first?
I mean, honestly, I really think it is just like, live your life like it's your last day and treat everyone around you like it's theirs too. And that is, like Roberta is talking about, mindfulness. I think that is the key for anyone who wants any kind of joy and peace in their lives. Because if you are not staying in the present moment, you're constantly focused on the past and you're going to be depressed, or you're trying to control the future where you're going to have anxiety. And then all of a sudden, this is what defines you. When really, if you can just stay here now in the present moment, living in your full potential and loving the people around you like it is your last. Like, every day you wake up, like, we should be acknowledging, like, this is a gift. Yeah. This is a gift. Am I going to screw it off and go sit and watch Netflix all day and ignore my messages? Am I going to tell my kids to fuck off? I don't really tell them that, but, you know, am I going to shut everything down and hide in my shell and not even try? Like, this is a gift. Today was a gift for you. So go outside, get some fresh air, acknowledge that, you know, all the blessings that you have. If you're hearing this, obviously you're very blessed. You've got the ears, you've got the eyes, you've got the technology, you've got the freedom to even be able to be in the space to watch this. You know, before I see this video from another country of how these men are treating their wives, they could never have access to a podcast like this, never have access to this episode, never have access to help. They are trapped. They are in these prisons. They have no prisons. They're married in a prison, right? Like, there's just no, I mean, this is really happening. It's crazy to me. So right now we have a chance to just really be grateful for where we are and what we have and be in that moment. Take Roberta's advice, get mindful, breathe.
Yes. Take your time at it and practice it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because it is, and it does work. You know, I know what is the saying after an AA meeting? If you work it, it works. It
Yeah.
works. Yep. If you work it, it works.
I didn't know that was a saying, but I think everybody needs to understand that.
Yeah,
If you work, it works. That applies to
it works,
everything.
it works. That's right.
Everything.
Now, ladies, before we leave, because we have about 15 minutes, I want you just to take the time and let our audience know about you and how they can contact you if they need to. Um, so I'll let
We're
you
gonna
guys.
make Nicole go first because I just talk too much and I feel like I'll take the whole time.
It's a podcast. That's what we're doing.
Oh.
That's the goal, right? It's to talk.
Right.
Yeah, so I am a grief coach and I help anyone who is grieving. I do kind of specialize in nurses because a lot of time, because being a nurse myself, a lot of times we don't think about how much nurses grieve. And even as a nurse, I didn't realize that. Like a lot of times the anger that I was feeling was me coming home and like, oh, that's the last time I'm going to see that patient. And, either because I know they're going to die, or because sometimes if you have somebody like no longer on your services, like you could become really close to your patients and then you just never see them again and you become close to their family members. And it's just, you just carry a lot with you as a nurse, as a healthcare worker. And so, but yeah, I specialize in grief and mostly, like I said, because my parents died. And then I also, like a month after my mom died, I found out there was financial infidelity in my marriage. And so the grief of the relationship I thought we had and grieving through that on top of the grief of losing my parents, and then COVID hit and the world was upside down. And so it was just like a lot of compacted grief in my life for multiple years. And I struggled with it. I struggled with it for multiple years on my own. Until I found a coach and found life coaching and realized like mindset is everything and it's huge. And I think too, like a lot of times that we so often we compare ourselves to others, but we're our own worst critic. And so that's what I was doing is like I was stuck in a grief spiral, but also the shame and guilt that like I wasn't being a better mom through it, or I was not being a better wife through all of that. Like I carried that for so many years. And so that is kind of my goal. My mission is to help more people normalize grief, understand grief, process through their grief, allow feelings. Any feeling we have, if we allow it, truly allow it, it goes away in 60 to 90 seconds. And so we spend so many hours and days and weeks and years trying to push away those feelings when really all we need to do is feel them and life will be better. And so that is what I help people through. And yeah, so you can find me at nursegriefcoaching.com. And I'm doing weekly webinars through the end of the year on holiday grief. And so like a lot of people struggle this time of year. A lot of memories come up, traditions look differently. So I'm running that too.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
Right.
And I feel like it should, being a nurse is hard work. So not only I feel like you're always you're underpaid, overworked, underappreciated all across the board. And so it's even your job leaves you feeling that kind of like mourning, that sense of mourning of like, you just aren't, it's a wild job to have. So cheers to you. Thank you for what you do. Honestly.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
awesome.
Absolutely.
And yeah. And I am a mindset coach because I spent my whole life wishing and dreaming, for someone to save me, right? Since I was 12 years old, since my rights were signed off on me, my prayer to God was like, please send me someone to save me from this. And soon enough, I realized like no one is coming. No one's going to do this for me. No one is coming. So I had to take massive responsibility for my life, massive responsibility for my choices. I had to let go of the victim mentality. I had to release 12-year-old Brandon, who's been driving the bus in my life for a very long time. Angry 16-year-old Brandon. She made a lot of choices for me. I'm sorry, you guys. So I had to heal through this process of just realizing, like, our perspective is everything. Our perspective decides if we're going to have joy and peace, or if we're going to be angry, miserable fucks, you know? So I wrote a book, my first book, Once Upon a Time Bitches, just talking about that story of, you know, I share 7 maxims of how you can step up to start to save yourself, because it doesn't even have to be with grief. I don't care where you're at in your life. Like, if, you know, you don't like it, you can change it. And so I empower people to step into their full potential. I am the host of Listen Bitch podcast, and I'm there 4 days a week. And it is really the come to Jesus talk of, like, you know, I give you practical tips and, you know, inspiration to really just step into your full potential. Because, like I said, I think we're so afraid of dying, but we're not really living. And, you know, as I started getting successful, people were like, "You're so lucky." I'm like, bitch, I'm working my ass off for this. Like, I am in the arena. Life did not pause for me to get my shit together, right? So while you're trying to, you know, fix your mindset, get, you know, heal yourself, heal your trauma, feel your trauma, get in the present moment, stuff's still happening, right? I've got 6 kids. My phone never stops ringing. I'm homeschooling. So it is a constant, there's always something, and you can either have an excuse or you can use your excuse as fuel. And so I help people through that as well. And that led to another book, Fuck Luck Bitches, because we aren't lucky. That, you know, luck is a thing. Like, the harder you work, the luckier you get. the more you work on changing your vibration and stepping into your potential, the more amazing things that you vibrationally attract to yourself. And that's just the law of the world. Like that, you know, it's God's law. It's how things work. So, yeah, I just, every day I wake up and I'm super excited that, you know, if I can just help one person realize that they're drowning in the victim mentality, you know, and I can help them through that, then I'm excited. And Roberta, this is awesome. I'm excited to check out your work now. I will have to get 2 turkeys ready for Thanksgiving as soon as we get off of here. But then I'm like, I'm going to jump up into under my blankets, because it's freezing right now. Jump in those covers, and I'm going to stalk Roberta the Tool Lady, because I think
well, that's awesome. I'm
going to spy on you too, Nicole. So you're not out of being nosy.
Well, I knew that you 2 ladies would be able to bring it together. And like I said, that's why I told you, oh, don't worry, because I've already watched your podcast.
Yeah.
And with Nicole, I just looked at some of the stuff and I was like, yeah, I need her. And so this is right now. And you're so right. You're so right about, you know, being able to accept what is given and handed out. That's why I said, is there any tools you want to leave for everybody? Because, you know, people are really hurting. And like you said, it's a spiral, a circle, whichever you want to say. And people are unable to get out of it.
Yep.
And it's all here.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's all here.
You have everything you need. There is no coach. There is no class. There is no special anything out there that's going to shift this for you. Like, if you don't make the choice, you're never going to change. And it's that simple. It's that choice. And you guys can find me at brandonlynette.com, and Listen Bitches on Apple, Spotify. I actually put myself on YouTube last week. This is my 2nd week of doing it. I've been so scared of YouTube, girl. I don't know why. But and for what? I don't even have any viewers. So I was holding out for no reason, because there's no one there. So that's
people, they're going to follow you. I trust me.
Get there.
Trust me. It takes a lot to be honest. It takes a lot to get my attention. I really did. It had my attention. So I was like, okay, all right, yeah. So yeah, people are gonna follow you. You're gonna.
I want you on my podcast. Like, we need to bring Roberta on. And
okay, all right.
I mean, let's do this, ladies. I just got
You're right.
If I ask you publicly, you can't say no.
Oh no, we're family now. We're locked in. We are locked in. Okay. This was really a good time. It was a good conversation. It was a way to lead into Thanksgiving. So I want my audience to enjoy your holiday, enjoy your family, enjoy the ones that are there. As Brendan has shared, enjoy the ones that you're with right now. You know, make the most out of it. Make it 100%. And if you can't just get past some of the things, just look at just right now. Just look at where you're at right now. And a lot of times you'll figure out, oh, I'm okay right now, right? I'm in a good place. So that's it. Love you all. Thank you all for joining me.
Thank you, Roberta, so much.
All right. And peace and love.
Thank you.
There's a sparkle in your eyes. I feel the warmth of your skin. Just the touch of your hand.